There are some tools that are available to sort of presidents and by extension Congress to combat some of the economic problems that we've already identified. One of them is referred to as fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is when the government uses its powers to either tax or not tax, and then to spend as a government as some sort of like corrective action to deal with like economic problems. So, for example, like one of like example for each, that is a picture of Ronald Reagan, and Ronald Reagan um, developed a plan in conjunction with the Republican Congress at the time that was known as a nickname as trickle down economics to deal with like poor economic like time periods, right? And what trickle down economics dealt with was like taxation. And this was the idea of cutting taxes for the rich and reducing sort of taxes on the rich and the wealthy in a hope that they would sort of take their increased savings, the less they're spending in taxes, and they would reinvest it in society, whether that means opening a new business or spending more money. And then sort of the benefits of the rich and the wealthy having more money because less is taken away in the form of taxes would sort of like trickle down to all the other sort of like economic sort of like levels. So that's an example of an economic program developed by a president that he felt would, you know, deal with economic problems at the time that revolved around taxation. And again, sort of the idea of cutting taxes for the wealthy and benefiting everybody else, a pretty controversial like issue, but nonetheless, it's an example of like fiscal policy. For the spending part, FDR is a great example. FDR was a believer in what's called Keynesian economics. It's named after famous British economist John Maynard Keynes, who sort of was the most prominent in the early to mid like 1900s. And Keynesian economics sort of stressed the need for government to spend money to sort of pull the country out of bad like financial times. And that's exactly the sort of theory that Roosevelt subscribed to pull the country out of the Great Depression. That it was the national government's responsibility to spend in order to sort of like invigorate the economy. All of Roosevelt's New Deal programs involved government spending to put people back to work and to sort of like fix the economic sort of depression at the time. So fiscal policy is again the government using its powers to control taxing and spending, and obviously presidents can't do this by themselves; they have to do this with Congress. But there's an example like Reagan's trickle down economic program dealing with the taxation part, and FDR's favoring of Keynesian economics and government spending to sort of like deal with financial irregularities as a corrective action, dealing with the spending aspect of that.